So first, let me just say, as a general group, we got a group of guys this year that really understand the value of preparing well, and they've done everything we've asked them to do up to this point. They're diligent in their preparation. We test them quite a bit in our meeting room, but transferring their knowledge from the meeting room out to game-like situations, especially on a day like today when you're going really fast, you got to be able to process information very quickly. And the number one thing you have to have as a quarterback is the ability to make great decisions. And the second quality you got to have is the ability to throw the ball accurately in all situations. Whether the pocket's perfect or you're on the move or you're off balance or crowded or whatever it is. And then you got to be tough mentally and physically. And we harp on those things, and we set up drills as much as possible to try to mimic game-like situations. So when it does move fast and you're trying to process information and you haven't tried to deliver the ball accurately in all different situations, it ferrets out their level of preparation up to this point and how far away we are, in that room to be able to compete at a high level and win football games. So I think today was a little tougher on the quarterbacks because we went really, really fast. And that's really the first day that we did that to the quarterbacks and surprised them a little bit. But it's going to be a great teaching tape and learning environment as we watch the film, and getting them continue to focus back in on the process of how to process information. And I spent a lot of time giving them shortcuts, giving them keys and tells for those shortcuts, so they're not having to think about a myriad of things, but to focus in on 2 or 3 things to get to the decision that need to in the time frame that's allotted to them.
Coach, it's a little bit different training camp for you this year compared to last year when you had your solidified starter there in Buckshot. How's it going so far with Malik and Chris?
They've been awesome as far as leaders, and like I said, and the stuff that I just went through with respect to their preparation each day. We really have one guy that's played a lot of college football, and that's Chris. Nobody else has played, unlike Buck, who had a lot of games under his belt and had the fuzzy logic in his head of experiencing a lot of things. As a quarterback, it's hard to get better as a quarterback until you play live. You really can't get better in that position without actually playing the game. Like we try to mimic the game as much as possible and put them in pressure situations and stay on top of them in those situations to try to increase the level of intensity and pressure to see if they can think properly. But really, we don't have really anybody in our room other than Chris that has any football experience at the college level in actual games. So it's my job to bring these guys up the curve, very quickly. But I think both Malik and Chris are about where they should be at this stage. Other than a day-to-day that was a little tough on them, but they'll get a lot better the more we put them in those situations.
Malik's the dual threat. We know he can do it with the arm and the leg, but I mean, for Chris, an older guy, is he still able to kind of escape? I guess he's not a slug, is what I'm getting at.
No, he's not. No, Chris has enough athleticism to move the sticks if he needs to. He probably doesn't have the level of athleticism to actually make a really good player. A couple of defensive players miss in the pocket and break contain. But if there's alleys and escape routes for Chris, he's smart enough to pull the ball down and move the sticks and is able to do that. And he's got enough athleticism to move in the pocket and reestablish his base and his eyes to get the ball completed.
How would you compare them as far as being able to go through progressions up to this point, what you've seen?
So every day we evaluate and grade them every single day. So we grade them on decision making, and then we grade them on physical execution. And they get a plus or minus, and then we tally it up, and at the end of the week they have a grade. And so the reason we do that is because we're able to group types of plays, types of concepts together and see where the tendencies are. Because what you typically find with a quarterback, if he's struggling on one play, he's probably struggling in a similar way to plays that are very similar conceptually to that play. So what you want to do is you want to see what the tendencies are. You want to see patterns of behavior that get corrected. A one-off mistake we're not as concerned with, or a missed throw that's going to happen. What we're looking for are tendencies of a lack of understanding or tendencies on a lack of physical execution. Let's just say that we struggle with a quick game to our left as a quarterback because we can't get our, our feet and our hips right. Grading that way in both categories, we'll ferret that and bring that to the top, and then we can focus in and establish the drills the next day and scripting the next day to get them over the hump in those areas that they might be struggling a little bit at.
What growth has Malik made since being on the scout team last year to where he is now, since spring kind of got cut short?
Yeah, Malik spent a lot of time on the scout team last year to help out our defense, which limited his time in our room. And so he spent a great deal of time, when we were all in quarantine and we're, just meeting via Zoom. He spent a great deal of time really studying and on his own, watching film and going through the decision-making process. Because right now, Malik's so physically talented, he's going to be able to make plays. That's not going to be the issue. The issue is going to be, can he make great decisions and not force the ball into coverages that confuse him, be able to see pressure off the edge or a weak corner blitz and these types of things that could trap him into a bad play. We have a motto in our room. We have many, but one of them is don't turn a bad play into a disaster play. We can't do that. And we can't reward receivers, for example, that are running an incorrect route, based on the pattern structure that we've got called, and then you reward them with a bad ball that gets picked off. That's taking a bad play and turning it into a disaster play, right? And when you're dealing with a guy, I've coached guys like this that are physically talented. It's a balance. You don't want to limit them so much to take the ad lib aspect of their game away from them and try to limit them down. But at the same time, you got to dial them in to get rid of the disaster play that can inevitably happen with a guy that can throw off balance and throw across his body and is just physically talented like that.
Go ahead, Damian.
He posted some videos over the summer working out in the quarterback's camp down in Georgia. Did you see any work that he did on his mechanics, footwork stuff that's helped him out so far?
Yeah, I don't pay attention, honestly, to any of that. I pay attention to the drills that we take the quarterbacks through, and I evaluate the fundamentals and the mechanics, the way we want to here, and then I'll get them corrected. They all have fundamental flaws. I understand the private quarterback coaches, and there's a lot of good ones out there, and there's a lot of really bad ones out there. It shouldn't be in the business, to be honest with you. So we're going to coach them up the way we want to coach them up to our offense, and they're going to do the fundamentals and the mechanics the way we want them to do them. Yeah.
This might be a better question for Coach Freeze, but do you foresee any way that maybe there's both quarterbacks playing at some point, or do you want to go with one starter and maybe just have packages for the other, or is it even too early to know that yet?
I think it's way too soon. We haven't really even had a live period, and we're very early in camp. There's different ways to do a 2-quarterback system. Like you said, platoon them. I'm less inclined personally. It's more of a, I'll coach it however Coach Freeze wants me to, but I'm less inclined, personally to go that route. Having packages that play to the skill set of each guy, especially if they're different, might make sense, but you got to make sure that there's creativity in that environment as well, because if you cubbyhole a quarterback into just one element of offense, a good coordinator on the other side of the ball is going to be able to defend that. As soon as he sees that that's what you're employing offensively, he'll have his sub packages and schematics as well to play to that quarterback's strengths. So really, we want quarterbacks that can run the entire offense and be proficient at all of it.
How's Jonathan Bennett look so far?
Jonathan's done really well, actually. He's been a real surprise, not a surprise, but he, coming off his injury and all the things that he had to deal with, he's having a really good camp right now. He's making really great decisions. He's throwing the ball pretty well. He's really worked to get his body back in shape and to get over his injury. He's obviously a young man that cares a lot and is very, very well prepared every time he takes the field.
Similar type question to what Nick just asked you, but have you all as a coaching staff kind of set a timeline or a date that says, when we reach this point, we need to have, kind of made our mind up of what we want to do as far as who we're going to try out there for snap one of week one?
We haven't set a timeline yet. That typically will happen kind of organically, to be honest with you. As we start to continue to evaluate, grade every day, and we start to see the patterns develop in front of us. If there's consistency with respect to things that are done well and things that are not done well, then we're able to kind of piece together schematically what we want to do for that quarterback or that group of quarterbacks or the two that are most likely to play. And from there, we'll fall into our decision, with respect to who starts and if the other guy's going to get in the game, if one falters.
How have the younger quarterbacks looked, like a Will Bowers or a Sean Brown, guys you've brought in recently? How within the last couple of recruiting classes, how have they been looking? If they've gotten any significant snaps?
Will's gotten some, not a lot of significant snaps right now. I mean, Sean is learning quite a bit, and he's a little overwhelmed right now. And I tell all the young guys, don't get frustrated with the process, because that's the worst thing you do as a quarterback, is get frustrated early. The switch will go on, and it'll make sense, as it starts to absorb in, mentally. And Will's throwing the ball, pretty well. I think Sean's a really talented passer. I think he's displayed that. He's really athletic. He's got really twitchy feet, and he's a natural passer with a big arm and natural accuracy.
Last week, Coach Freeze said that Bennett was kind of pushing the top two guys and may deserve some maybe first or even second team reps. Is that something that's continuing to happen, or is he pretty solidified at number 3?
Yeah, we want to get through this week, so we have enough information and enough grading, if you will, and enough plays to make a proper evaluation. If one quarterback has 70 plays that he's repped and one only has 15, that's probably not a fair evaluation. But we're getting to the point now where the body of work is enough to make an evaluation, and then to start to juggle the reps from a competitive standpoint to again move closer to the decision that we need to make in regards to who's going to play for us.